Heyo. Uh, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another weekly AMA. I'm doing it on Thursday this time because I'm actually really booked this weekend, and I'll talk about a little bit of what I'm doing. And I have some time today. Feeling a little tired, so I wanted to make sure I do the AMA. Hey, puppies. Um, all the animals are in here. Gator, stop scratching. My dog scratches his ears till he whines. It's like, dude, just stop that shit. um, so funny story before we get into the topic and then into the questions is you see this cat right here? Um, this is Tito, if you don't know. Tito normally doesn't sleep with April and I. He sleeps upstairs somewhere because we move around too much. We got the dogs, we have other cats. So he climbed into bed about 10:30, and I was like, "Oh, Tito," and I pet him. Get a handful of cat shit. No joke. Like I did one of these, and I'm not quite sure how it happened, but somehow he got cat shit all on his butt and on his tail, and he pooped himself apparently. And I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my!" And April's like, "What's the matter?" I just kept on saying for like 15 seconds till I was like sort of fully awake of the situation, and then I had to get out of bed, take the blanket off, throw that in dirty clothes, wash my hands, have April wash Tito's little tail and behind. The joys, though, the joys of having pets. But that was what my 10 o'clock. I had been in bed for about an hour or so, sort of in that daze where you're like 90% asleep, but you're still 10% aware. Um, anyhow, I thought I'd share that with you. Just fun. I'm good, man. I'm a little tired. It's been a little bit of a long day. I had to take a friend to get his wisdom teeth out and help him with that and whatnot. But let's talk about the topic at hand today, which is on to the next project. So one of the crazy things about software development and really just trying to progress your career is you're never really done. Even on something that's a one-time project, it just means you freed up space to move on to the next thing or the next thing or the next thing, right? So right now, I just finished a cool project, which was my first conference talk at DevFest Florida, and that took up a little bit of time, a little bit of energy, and we're on to the next, and another one, right? On to the next thing, and I bring this up. One, to just sort of talk about it because I think some of the stuff that I'm working on is pretty cool and I'm pretty excited about. And two, because I want you guys to understand that if you really do want to progress your career and you really do want to continue growing and you want to get those big paychecks, be in high demand, and you want to just be a developer of note. That's sort of my objective at the end of the day, is to not only have a good life and all the things that come with that, flexibility, retirement, money, benefits, um, all that sort of stuff. But also, um, I want people to recognize what you can do with a little bit of effort and what you can do with a lot of bit of effort. And so when you finish one thing, sometimes people's first gut instinct is to take it easy, not do anything. But what it should be, if you want to continue growing, is figure out what's next. And usually, you already know what it is. So this weekend, I'm taking care of a course that I'm doing for Thinkster that I'm gonna what do they call it when they I'm not building them a course per se, but I'm leasing a course to them, another course. And then I am creating my syllabus for the clean TypeScript. Not excuse me, not clean TypeScript. Object-oriented programming in TypeScript course that I'm looking at building for LinkedIn Learning. that's that's what I'm gonna. And then of course I have my YouTube channel. I have my podcast, and I really do want to get back to writing books. But one thing I've recently decided is that I am going to go back and learn data structures and algorithms like binary search, breadth first search. That is my 2020 goal. I think it's time. I think it's time that I do that. Um, and we're going to see how it impacts my skill, and we're going to see how it impacts my job. We're going to see how it impacts my value. But I think it's important not only for me to a degree. It's not super relevant, but I think there's a lot of value to teach that to people who maybe don't have a traditional computer science background. And from what I can see on YouTube, there's not really any. I don't know. There's stuff. There's just not great stuff. Does that make sense? Like there's stuff that'll get the job done, but part of the issue I have with a lot of these very computer science heavy stuff is they don't break it down to the nuts and bolts so that you can actually understand it. You know what I mean? If you didn't come from that background, and like let's say you're an English major and you went and got you went to a coding boot camp and you never got introduced to some of these things. So that's going to be a goal of mine down the road. Tips for someone going to a coding boot camp: have all the basics down to loop, conditional objects, etc. But feel nervous about the interview and the intensity of the boot camp. Yeah, man. I mean, but the advice I always give people is expect to put in about 60 hours a week into a boot camp, and if you can, prep about 3 to 6 months beforehand. That's the advice that I think you should. um, yeah, and don't quit. And what I mean by that is there's points where you're going to, and April has had some rough days in the past few days. So this rings somewhat true. There are points where you're going to have days that are going to make you question whether it's worth it, whether you want to do this, whether you like this anymore. And most of the time, what that is just a stress talking. Most of the time, what that is just you being tired, you being miserable, you having a rough time. And that's okay. But the key is not quitting when you want to. I've wanted to quit almost everything I've ever done in my life. But when I have quit, it's been for things that after evaluating carefully I didn't want, and everything else was no, this is what I really want. This is what I'm going to do, and even if I'm miserable, I have to find a way to work through it, right? So we need to find a way to work through it. And so if you're having those rough days, and they will be there, anyone tells you they're not going to be there is lying to you. There's going to be those days where you hate it. There's going to be those days where you feel like you're inadequate. There's going to be those days where you question your choice. You need to push through that, okay? And you need to figure out how to keep it fun. You need to figure out how to still enjoy what you're doing. So that's what you need to make sure that you do. Got that right, Tito? Yeah. When did you get to the point where you felt comfortable as a dev instead of the initial dread beginners have? Um, well, I'd probably say my second job. So there's 2 points to this. Mentally, when was I like, yo, I can do my job now? Like always. You know what I mean? Where like there's pretty much if you came to me and you had an idea for a front end application, I could get started today. Like we could have a 30-minute conversation. I could get going today, and I wouldn't be too worried about a lot of things. Like I have generally the front end figured out well enough to where I don't get stuck. There are things that happen. There are things where the configuration's wrong, where mistakes are made. Like if you saw the title today, I always try to like lately. I've been sort of joking around trying to have a different title for this, but like there are days where you break production. Like that's something I've done. Um, I did very recently, like this week. So, um, but so mistakes happen. But in terms of how do you put it? In terms of hey Boise, of like being stressed out and like having that imposter syndrome, that for the most part went away when I started getting multiple six-figure offers. And um, you know, occasionally it still happens though. Occasionally I get, but that's my anxiety more than imposter syndrome. Occasionally I I have anxiety issues where I make a small mistake at work and now I'm questioning everything. And I know a lot of the time that the way to overcome that is just to overcome it. If that makes sense. Like it's oftentimes scarier than you think it is, you know. The unknown is much scarier than the known. And so the anxiety for me comes from wondering what my superiors think about the mistakes I have. But since I have very open communication with most of my superiors, that when these mistakes happen and I own up to it, like I, I'm one of those people that are like, hey, if I mess up, assign me the blame. I have no problem being to blame because I don't care about blame. If I if I make the wrong decision, it is because it had the right intent and statistically it was the correct decision. So one thing I sort of quote frequently is that you're not supposed to be results driven. One thing I highly recommend for you guys from a mentality standpoint in your code, in life, is that you do not be results driven. And what that basically means is that, and this is a very common concept in poker, is that when you make a decision, you make the best decision that you can at the time, and you don't think about it regardless of how it turns out. And the reason for that is you're going to just waste time going back and forth in your head on something that you can't change anymore. So if you say something along the lines of, hey, I you know, I took the 70% chance with the 30%. You made the best decision, even if the 30% happens. And so when you go and you say, hey, I'm going to do this because it's statistically the best thing for my career. It's the best thing for me to do with my money. Like, let's say you put your money into the S&P 500, something that has statistically grown 10% a year or around there, been a very safe investment. But then your investment gets gutted, right? Just drops 25%. You can't go and be results driven about that. You made a good choice, it just didn't work out. And you need to take the same approach in life. So you make good choices, and even if they don't work out, you don't you don't stop making good choices. You don't stop having confidence in what you're doing. And what you'll find out is that when you are not results driven, you get better results. That's what happens. And it also has you go for the long game. Um, so I don't so I don't even know how we got started talking about this now. I talked about this once earlier today. Um, I can do a lot of things on computer, like making websites, apps, games, machine learning. Currently learning embedded system. Want to know how I can make some money to afford myself. I tried a lot. It sounds like you tried a lot, but never learned anything. I don't say that to be disrespectful, but unless you're just a savant that knows everything. So what I would say is there's plenty of ways to make money online. You could build courses. You could start a YouTube channel. All those things, build a blog for one of them. Build a that you make ad revenue on, collect emails, that you have affiliate links, whatever. Um, that you go and build courses for those. That you go and say, hey, I'm gonna build a web app that has some functionality that people come to my site. So there's tons of ways to make money online. You just have to do it. What's going on, Casey? Is my webcam still? You guys still see the video? My webcam went black again. I think there's a bug in this, because this happened last time too. Everyone can still see my beautiful face. Yeah, I see it. All right, cool. You don't want to miss out on all this. But yeah, and I'm very so. Did you hear that Tech Lead made around 550,000 at Facebook? Jesus, really? I did say I was going to start studying those algorithms. God damn. Is automation the best way to transfer from QA to dev? Yeah, it's a great skill to learn. It will help because it takes a very pragmatic sort of mind. The best way is to apply for jobs outside of your organization. That's the best way. The tier 6. She. I'm coming, Facebook. Facebook, you throwing money around like that? Whoo! I'm coming. Am I gonna make any videos about my girlfriend's bootcamp journey? Maybe. She asked me not to really talk about it too much, so maybe at some point when she wants to talk about it, we will. I'll leave that up to her. Come here, Boise. Come here, baby girl. Oh, ow. Oh, baby girl. What is one of the Fortune 500 companies work for? There's really two main companies that I would work for, that I want to work for. There is Google and there is Microsoft. Those are really the only two I'm interested at. I'm sure there's some other cool ones, but like if I was going to start applying today or next year or something like that, those would be the two I would actively pursue. I'm not saying I wouldn't take a job at any other company, but I would. Those would be the two companies I would go and actually apply their apps. So. So. Yeah, I was talking with April the other day about, because it used to be, dude, it used to be a major goal of mine to work at Google or Facebook, Amazon, or Microsoft. And I've interviewed with all those dudes, but I never landed a role, and it really sort of bothers me. Because I've done the interviews. I've done well enough to know that I can get there with a little bit of effort. I was just talking the other day about how I'd never interview at Microsoft again because it took forever. Can you see yourself working remote for the rest of your career? Yes. There's one thing. The only way I'm going from not working remote is if I take a job at Google or Microsoft. So that's the only way. Or there's a major pay bump, right? Where like, hey, I'm at 115 and I have bonuses and things like that in the Tampa area, and they say something like, hey, we're gonna, I get something like 150, and I go in the office 3 days a week, but they want me 5 days a week, I'd be like 160. Like it has to be like a 40% raise. Get me up there. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm very happy working remotely right now. What is my schedule like now that I'm remote? I work about 7:30 to 4, 7:30 a.m. to about 4 p.m. And I usually it can go anywhere from 7:15 to 4:15. That's usually. Do you think not knowing a language like C# is preventing you from working at Google or is the whiteboard? I know exactly what's preventing me. It's the algorithms. That's it. Because they don't care if I know C# or not. I learned C# this weekend. It's not an issue. They want me to understand some of the algorithms, computer sciencey stuff. How can I memorize all the CSS and HTML elements? You don't need to memorize it. What you need to do is simply have an understanding, and from there go and have an understanding, and from there figure out how to relate those things. And it's just practice more than anything else. You just got to practice, 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 practice. Kids outside. I got my window open because it's nice and cool. Kids outside screaming. It's okay, Gator. Yeah. I don't know if I can practice code. I'm just now where I need to get paid to practice code. So whenever I study like the way I've jumped jobs in the past, since we're talking about like what would be a company I would work for and studying. Not that I'm looking. I'm very happy where I'm at. But the way that I go about progressing my career is I do spend about 3 months studying, and then I start applying. Or I start applying 6 weeks in with the goal of studying for 3 months the things that I know what people want in the next role. Have you decided where? I know you want to live somewhere colder. So anyhow, the point I was trying to make is that I do consider that I'm getting paid, except I'm getting paid after the fact. I'm getting paid with a raise. I'm getting paid at the next organization I work for. Have you decided where you would like to live next? I remember you said you wanted to live somewhere colder. Yeah, there's a couple places. So Tulsa, Oklahoma they have a program. It's like called Tulsa Remote, and what they recommend is that, or what that is they actually give you $10,000 to relocate and 1 free year in a desk at a co-working space. And so the program, they take in a certain amount of people every year to have high income individuals. They define high income as being 70,000 or above, who work fully remote, that will relocate to there. And so they give you $10,000 to relocate. So that's one area that we looked at that gets us a little closer to home. That gets us another step closer to cooler weather. Another area that I've looked at is potentially Austin, Texas, as that will be closer to home, but it'll also be close to my architect, so there shouldn't be any issue about relocating. 70K is, so when you look at the average family makes 60K, for a single individual to make $70,000 is fairly high. That's what I'm saying, high income. It's higher than the median average family pay, and it's higher than, so if an entire family's making 60K in the US and you say 70K is high, it's just higher than the median. Obviously, when I'm making around 150,000, I'm significantly higher than that 70K threshold, right? So like, but yeah. Anyhow, Tulsa, part of the reason, even though I'd go from paying no state tax to a 4.5% state tax, the sales tax is lower, and housing is 46% cheaper than it is in Tampa. So, you get quite a nice house for the same price, for a decent price lower. But Austin, Texas is another area, and Salt Lake City, Utah, and Evanston, Wyoming are the main areas that we're looking at. I don't know when or where or how, but that's the general idea right now of what we're thinking. The truth of the matter is, in a 2-year period of time, April and I are probably going to be getting to that let's have kids age, and we want to be closer to home. My parents are getting older. I want to be able to see them more often, and if I need to buy a second home for somebody nearby. So, Amanda Rose, happy holidays, Dylan. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. You got your cat too? I love my cat people. What's with the side project? Which side project? How do people afford new houses of $1 million plus? Well, one, they owned a house that they sold for a lot. What's with the side? I haven't touched it in a minute. So I went out of town and then I I did the conference. That's another thing I was going to do this weekend. I have about 500 videos I have to record for Video Dev Docs before I sort of make the alpha announcement. You're the awkward guy from the Dev Fest with the girlfriend and the doggy? And the doggy? With the girlfriend and the doggy. What did did your girlfriend have like orangish hair? Orangish curly hair? There's a couple awkward guys. I don't remember the doggy. Are we there yet? No, not yet. Yeah, lots of projects right now. I have some, so I need to get my LinkedIn Learning course. I need to get this Thinkster course done this weekend. So it's putting Video Dev Docs on hold a little bit. Any good resources for learning TypeScript? That's an excellent question. I don't really know. I mean, Udemy would be the go-to, but I can't recommend a course. I've actually been thinking about building a TypeScript course for a while. Seems like one that wouldn't be a huge amount of undertaking and one that's not going to go bad anytime soon. To get back into it, just coding every day is probably the best way to get back into it. Since you've been through it already and you keep it real, how long do you think the average person would have to practice algorithms to get a job at Microsoft? Well, I think first you're going to have a couple years of experience just to get your foot in the door. But assuming that's the case, I would say that if you studied for 3 months, you could do it. 3 months, about 2 to 4 hours a day. So if we say 3 months, 2 hours a day, and we say you do that 25 days a month, that's 150 hours. That's just data structure and algorithms, 150 hours. If you do 4 hours, that's about 300 hours. Yeah, I mean, I think around there. That's what I would do. About 2 hours a day, about 5 days a week for about 3 months. But you're gonna have to have some other skills. because you have to be able to get noticed, which means you have to have resume experience. I heard that 50% of people quit on big IT companies quit prior to first commit. At least that's what Tech Lead said. Interesting. I wonder if that's because most people sort of interview well, but they still can't do the job, or so I think a lot of stress from a workplace comes from yourself, right? And they do seem very high stress, which is always sort of, it's been one of the things that hasn't motivated me in recent times to consider them. But they throwing 550K around for a tech lead. Holler at your boy. I take a little stress. every time every time I feel a little stress, I jump into my bath of money. Yeah, another thing I gotta do this weekend is so I gave my first conference talk. You say you work nearly 16 hours a day. You're not gonna get more than 8.5 out of me. So there's not a boss around that's gonna get me to work 16 hours a day. Not a single one. Uh, uh, what's going on, Luke John? Yeah. Eric is daring me to apply. So Eric and I recorded a podcast for my conference talk that I did. They'll probably come out next week or the week after. And after the fact, he's like, "Yo, man, you should apply for NG Conf." I was like, I don't know, man. Like, we're going from little couple hundred people conference to 10,000 people conference. I don't know about this. He's like, dude, let's do it. So that's another thing. This weekend, I have a working relationship with one of the organizers, and I asked him for some advice about some topics, and so I'm putting that together to submit my my topic that for NGConf. And so we'll see. We'll see if I get selected. So it'll be interesting to do. It's quite the step up in competition. So yeah. Yeah. Am I finishing video dev docs? Not yet. No. This weekend, I have to create my conference talks for NG Conf, my suggestions that I want to talk about. I have to upload a course for a platform that I'm leasing to. I have to create a syllabus for LinkedIn Learning. And then when I finish those three things, I'm going back full steam on video dev docs, which is a lot of recording content. There's additional features I want to build for the site, but right now the biggest obstacle we have is recording and creating content. So that's going to be my next big challenge. I also was thinking with video dev docs of creating a component library for it and then making that open source, and people can use the same component library that I'm using. But that requires some refactoring, and that'd be down the road. Yeah, I want to finish video dev docs though, and by finish I just mean bring it to an alpha stage. This is gonna be a several year project if I continue with it. Is April still doing Lambda? Yes, she is. They're on Redux right now, and I think next week they start Node. What would you suggest if someone offers me a job at a crapping company, but then start the interview process with a good company? It's super shady if I accept it. Then fuck off if I get the other job. Nope, I think it's completely fine. Do what's best for you. Take the job, take the guarantee, and if you find something better, great. Move on to something better. Here's the thing, man. You owe no loyalty to a company. A company will cut you as soon as they have to. What's going on, Alex? Did you get nervous when you giving your talk? A little bit, not that much. Also, would you say you're way better at talking and doing tutorials compared to when you first started a YouTube channel? Yeah, of course, man. I have many more years of experience doing tutorials and learning and everything, everything else. So anything you do, again, you get better. Or as my girlfriend says, anything I do again and again, I get better at, as long as it's not sex. She's a funny girl. Uh, over here lying, girl. Over here lying, lying. Um, are you in April mentally prepared to be a power couple with a 2 dev household income? Yeah, man. I mean, I sort of have a 2 shitty dev household income right now. I have 2 devs. If both devs made $75,000 income, $75,000 a piece. um, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, man. Like when April starts working and gets a couple years under her belt, we'll bring in 250, 300, and that might even be higher than that, depending on how so every year we're making money. Our money's making money now. Our house is appreciating. Our investments are paying dividends, literally. Our investments are appreciating. Our side projects are generating revenue. So like, yeah. uh am I prepared? Hell yeah. Listen, I've been broke the majority of my life. It's time not to do that. I want to be baller. We're not at baller status. I want to ball hard, y'all. Talking about leopards and shit. That's what we're gonna have. We're gonna have a zoo at the house. No, but um, it's am I mentally prepared? Yeah, I save and I invest and all that sort of stuff. So, all right, have a good one, Alex. Good job on the blog, by the way, man. Texas lets you have tigers, apparently. Am I using something for making wireframes? I usually use balsamic. That's what I use. Yeah, I need to focus on health more too, man. Tell me about April gripes at me. I think her exact comment is, "I don't want you dying before me," or some shit like that. Many years before me. Am I gonna replace my current cat with a leopard? No. I'm not gonna do anything as exciting. The majority of what I'll be doing with my excess money is what I do now. I'll travel a little bit. I'll probably spend a little bit of money on my folks. I will invest, and I'll buy investment properties. That'll probably be it. Nothing too exciting. Put your money on AMD. I own some AMD, but I haven't. I bought it a while back and not that much. Any interest in machine learning? Yeah, man. I'm interested in all that stuff. I just haven't had the chance to sit down and learn it. Um, I joke that if I ever wanted an easy 50K raise, I'd just learn a little bit of data science and jump over. So I'm telling you, man, it's not it's not a bad idea. I'm sure I could pick it up if I spent a year on it. Your dogs are huge. They're stacking up a little bit. TensorFlow, yeah, TensorFlow is used in JavaScript for data science. Here's the thing: is like if I wanted a pay raise, and I always want a pay raise, but like if I was like, all right, I'm serious, I want to go make more money, I would go study the algorithms and the data structures because that would be the shortest amount of time for the biggest gain. If I wanted to really learn data science and get a job in machine learning or get a job in AI or something like that, it's a year-long process, I think. So, and it's not something I'm necessarily all that passionate about. But then again, I'm not that passionate about algorithms and data structures either. So it's it's uh it's one of those items where you have to think about it. What do you think about Flutter? I haven't thought too much about it. Although I will say I talked to a guy at the speakers dinner and he was all about it, man. He loved it. For front end algorithms. My point exactly, right? Uh, but when you're in when you're interviewing with a Google or a Microsoft, that's what they want to know, regardless if you're using it or not. Data science would never let you work from home. Stay away. Yeah, and that's the other thing is I don't necessarily want to give up working from home. Yeah. So it's just one of those things, man. I'm pretty happy where I'm at, so like it's gonna take a lot to steal me away. Like here's another thing. Not only do I work remote, my work asks very reasonable things of me. They ask reasonable things of me. I haven't worked any overtime, and I'm able to work on those passion projects. I'm able to work on my YouTube, the courses, the conference talks, the podcasts, video dev docs, all these things that help me progress my career. You want to see my desk setup? Yeah, I'll show you, man. It's not very clean right now. So you see I got the 3 monitors set up, the chair, the microphone, the work laptop. That's it, man. Nothing too fancy. Did I have any doubts that I might not like the job? No, I'm not deep enough to think about stuff like that. I just think about the best case scenario. Where's the aroma diffuser? It's not here right now. I'm out of oils. Where would you like to travel if you were to have a digital nomad lifestyle? So, I'd probably do the states first, like travel to the 50 states. That'd be the first thing. Um, liking your job too much gets you in trouble. When I say I like my job, don't like I do like it, but I'm not going to. You ain't got to worry about me liking it too much. I don't have that in me. Is that a standing desk? Yeah. Certain jobs offer sponsorships. Yeah. Do all jobs which offer sponsorships require a degree? I think so. That's usually the case. Aggressico? No, I haven't heard of it. Someone recommended someone recommended me watch an anime called Sound and Fury. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. What a waste of my time that was. Did you watch Silicon Valley? I used to. I watched first 2 or 3 seasons, but that's about it. You like Isike? I don't know. All right, guys, I'm getting a little hungry. Getting a little tired. With that being said, as always, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I'll see you guys next week. Do our next live stream, and keep an eye out for this week's videos. See you later. Bye.